Welcome to our channel Career Talk. Friends, in this session, we will be exploring the real business analyst interview questions that are both challenging and asked multiple times and shared in our WhatsApp group. Friends, if you want to be part of our business analyst WhatsApp group, drop your email ID in the comments only. Please do not send me the direct email and I will make sure that I will add you in our WhatsApp group. Friends, as interviews are constantly evolving over the period of time, you won't find typical questions such as SRS or any other theoretical questions which you can find on internet. Friends, my name is Sunan Sharma and I work as an agile consultant in Netherlands, and our channel invites industry experts to share their insights and experience with our community. If you're new here, please remember to subscribe and become a part of our Career Talk family. And at the end of the session, we encourage you to leave a comment and like the video to show your support. So your feedback helps us to create more valuable content for all of you. So without further ado, let's get started. Today, we are fortunate to have Kanu Butani. He's a very known face in our channel, a senior business analyst who has appeared on our channel multiple times to discuss real life business analyst interview questions. So welcome, Kanu. Thanks for
Thank you.
your time again.
Thanks, Sunand. And it is very nice to be again in your channel. Thank you.
It's our channel, Kanu.
Yeah, it's our channel.
Not my channel.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this thought, Kanu, if you allow, shall we start?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So very first question is, it's a kind of scenario based that give me an example of a project where you had to work with legacy systems and how did you approach the project and what steps did you take to modernize the system. So friends, this kind of questions are asked mostly in a banking industry, in the industry where mainframes and the old COBOL and old legacy system are still in place, and a lot of migrations are nowadays which is happening. So this is a very important question, I think. So yeah, over to you,
Yes.
Kanu.
Yes, it's a very important question because I would say that the legacy, for example, there is a company which is having a legacy system for many years, and the system is showing its age. So the system is built on outdated technology like the COBOL and mainframe. Then what happens? The code becomes difficult to maintain and extend, and also it lacks many business features that it requires now. So we have to modernize that system, and I will give you step-by-step approach how we can approach to modernize the system.
Please.
The
Yeah.
first is analyze the existing system. So before modernizing the system, we need to understand how the system works, what the features that it lacks, and what improvements are required. Now, you may need to analyze the code, the data structures, the data schemas to gain a deep understanding of the system. Once that is done, then you can define your requirements. So based on the analysis that you have done, you define the requirements for your new system. Then you identify the features that the business requires and the technical improvements that are necessary to achieve them. And then the requirements also should be specific, measurable, and achievable. Once you are done with that, then you develop a migration plan. This is done when the steps that are outlined are required to move from legacy system to a new system. The plan should include a timeline, the resource allocation, a contingency plan in case of unforeseen issues. Then you have to choose the modern technology stack. In this, you should select that it should be suitable for the new system, considering the performance, the scalability, the maintainability, compatibility with the existing system. Once that is done, then you have to build a prototype. So you need to build a prototype that should demonstrate its features and functionality to stakeholders. This prototype should be able to handle a small subset of data also, and the processes to handle which are handled by legacy system. Later, you have to test the prototype with the identified issues and the bugs. You ensure that the prototype meets the defined requirements and specifications. Then you develop the new system based on the feedback received. You develop the new system, which should follow the industry best practices, including version control, code reviews, testing, and documentation. Then you have to migrate the data. Migrating the data from legacy system to the new system, you have to ensure that the data is transformed and migrated correctly. Then you have to train the users with all the features and functionality of the new system. Finally, you have to deploy it with the issues that are addressed promptly. Then the last step will come, decommissioning the legacy system. This is once the new system that you have developed, you have tested, you have done everything, and the system is stable and it is running properly in your production environment. That is the time when you have to decommission the legacy system, ensuring that all the data and processes that are migrated to the new system are done before you decommission the legacy system. Now, for example, I would like to tell you that in my recent project, which is related to the financial applications, some of the important applications were running in mainframe systems, and COBOL programmers had given us the deadline of support till the end of 2023. Hence, we are now converting all those applications into .NET and SQL Server to support other systems. Hence, to modernize the legal systems, it can be a complex and challenging process, but it is worthwhile investing for a long run. And you can successfully modernize a legacy system to meet the evolving needs of the business. Thank you.
Great, Kanu. I think you have covered it wonderfully, all the steps, how we can do that, and with the
Yes.
examples. So that's great. Thanks, Kanu, for that. Okay, so let me go to the second question.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Again, it's a kind of situational question, and I think it's very common. Most of the VA will face this kind of scenarios, especially when they are a little senior one. So the question is, describe a situation where you had to gather requirements from multiple stakeholders with conflicting opinions. So how do you manage these conflicting opinions, and what steps did you take to ensure that the final requirement met the need of all the stakeholders? So this is a very common situation, and if you are a experienced business analyst, then only you can tackle this kind of situations. Kanu. Yeah, please go ahead.
That's right. That's right. It is like normally we do not face this, but in some scenarios we do face this type of issues. So, like I'm taking an example of a retail company in which I was working. So that I was tasked with gathering requirements from multiple stakeholders, including the business owner, the marketing team, the customer service team, and the development team. And each stakeholder had different priorities and preferences. Their opinions often conflict. So to manage conflicting opinions and gather requirements that meet the needs of all the stakeholders, following steps can be taken. So first is conduct the stakeholder interviews. What I did, I conducted stakeholder interviews. Each person, I spoke to them to understand their priorities, the preferences, the requirements, and asked them the open-ended questions to encourage stakeholders to express their opinions and views and ideas. Then I conducted a group workshop wherein all the stakeholders were invited to discuss the requirements and prioritize them. I encourage them to listen to each other's opinions and ideas and to find out the common ground. Then the identifying the common themes. This was that the requirements that to be merged and emerged from the stakeholder interviews and the group workshop that we conducted. And then we documented all these requirements in a shared document or a requirements management tool. Then we started refining the requirements on the feedback received from stakeholders, identified the areas of conflicts and find the ways to resolve them. If necessary, I conducted follow-up interviews and workshops to clarify any issues. Finally, validating the requirements with stakeholders to ensure that they meet the business needs and also are feasible from a technical perspective. So I identify the gaps or missing requirements and address them. Then prioritizing the requirements based on their importance to the business and their feasibility from the technical perspective. Identify the requirements that are essential for first release of the product, and those can be addressed in future releases. Finally, obtaining the agreement from all the stakeholders on the final requirements. Document the requirements in a requirements specification document or a user story map. Then communicate the requirements to all the stakeholders, including the development team, the testing team, the project manager, and ensure that all stakeholders have the shared understanding of the requirements. Then you monitor the requirements throughout the development process and address any changes or issues promptly. You ensure that the requirements continue to meet the evolving needs of the business. For example, like, in this retail company, I have seen that in almost every team, they require the different kind of reports with different formats and datas. So the top management requires the very high level 10,000 square 10,000 feet high overview, and whereas middle management requires the details and the leads require the technical as well as the management details in one report. So to take care of each stakeholders and create the respective reports from the same database. So by doing step-by-step answers to these steps and working collaboratively with stakeholders, I was able to manage the conflicting opinions and gather requirements to meet the needs of all stakeholders. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Kanu. So friends, I asked Kanu to give a very elaborated answer. So it will be beneficial for you guys. So if you feel that some answer is a little bit long, that's okay. You can summarize that answer in your own word and you can use this. This is just a different perspective which Kanu is giving you step by step. So you will know how to proceed with this kind of questions in detail. So yes, thanks Kanu for that. And let's me jump to our third question. Yes. And this is again scenario based, situation based. So tell me about a project where you had to implement a new technology solution, and how did you evaluate the technology, and what are the different criteria which you have used to determine if this is the right solution for the business?
Yes. So working on a project to implement a new CRM system for a business. And I saw that the business currently uses the manual process to manage customer information. And the company's management team had decided to upgrade to a new technology solution to improve efficiency and customer experience. So to evaluate the technology and determine if it is the right solution for the business, following were the steps I followed. So the first is compatibility. You have to determine that the technology which we are using is compatible with the existing technology infrastructure of the business. Then we evaluate the hardware and software requirements, integration capabilities, and data migration process. Usability, you have to evaluate the ease of use of the technology solution. Consider the factors like user interface, accessibility, and training requirements for staff. Then the functionality should be meeting the business requirements. It should consider factors such as lead management, sales forecasting, customer segmentation, and reporting capabilities. Then the scalability, the solution can scale to meet the future needs of the business. Consider factors such as ability to handle increased data volumes, increased user demands, and the potential future integrations. The security is another feature that you should consider. The user authentication, the data encryption, and the vulnerability management. The cost of the ownership of the technology solution, including the licensing fees, the implementation costs, the ongoing maintenance costs. If the solution provides the positive return on investment for the business, then the vendor support, which is equally important because the quality and the availability of the vendor support for the technology solution is important. You have to consider the factors such as vendor's reputation, support availability, and response time. So for example, the technical people have separate technology stake that they think mostly in which they have worked. So the management thinks for the cost-effective solution, but in the techno managers and the BAs like us, who have to look into all the aspects and then select the technology. Maybe some solutions are possible in .NET, but for some they are not. Some are possible in SAP, some can be possible in Java. Hence, the project as a whole will be easier to be written in which language and all other aspects that needs to be discussed. So by using these criterias of evaluating the technology solution, we can determine the right solution for any business. Thank you.
Thanks, Kanu, for that. Okay, so the next question is on team management. So let's consider that you are working with a large team with a lot of developers working on some technical solution. So how do you manage the team, and what are the different steps which you will take to ensure that the solution was delivered on time and within budget? Because these are the most common constraint, time and budget. So what are the different steps which as a BA which you can take, Kanu?
Right. As a BA, I was leading a team of developers to build a custom software application for a client. The client had specific requirements for the application and a fixed budget and deadline for the project. So to manage the team and ensure that the solution is delivered on time within budget, I followed following steps. The first is define the project scope. Clearly, you should define the project scope and communicate it to the team and ensure that everyone understands the project objectives, requirements, and constraints. Then assign the roles and responsibilities to each team member. Ensure that everyone understands their role and responsibilities, that they have the necessary skills and resources to complete their tasks. Develop a project plan which should be detailed enough that includes all the tasks, timelines, milestones, and dependencies. Ensure that the plan is realistic and achievable within the project's budget and deadline. Then monitor the progress of the project regularly Use tools such as project management software or dashboards to track progress and identify any potential delays or issues. Communicate regularly with the team and stakeholders and provide them regular updates on projects progress and address any concerns or issues promptly. Then manage the risks. You identify the potential risks or issues that may impact the project's progress or budget. Develop a risk management plan to mitigate these risks and ensure that the project stays on track. Then test and validate. The software applications should be thoroughly tested and validated to meet the client's requirements. Use the automation testing tools, quality assurance processes, user acceptance testings to ensure that the application is working as expected. Then deploy and launch the software application to the client's environment. Ensure that the application is running smoothly and provide any necessary support or training to the client. For example, being a BA who is responsible for getting the functional details from the SMEs and clients and explains to the technical team who will be responsible for working on it. So if the project is simple, there is not much issue, but if it is complex, then there is too much to and fro from the SME team to the technical team and it becomes difficult to manage. So in that time, we need to check and make sure that everything is written properly and everyone in the team is on one page. By doing so, we can work collaboratively with the team and stakeholders and provide the clients their requirements and deliver the desired benefits. Thank you.
Great, Kanu. Okay, so next question is on a company culture, because being a BA, you will play a significant role in working with the company culture. So if I have to ask you that, okay, you have to describe a project where you have to implement a solution that required a significant change in the company culture. So how do you approach the cultural change, and what steps you have taken to ensure that the changes are successful? That's more important. So what is your take on that, Kanu?
Yes. See, there was a project wherein we had to implement a new agile software development methodology, and traditionally the company was following a hierarchical approach. So the new methodology required a significant change in the company's culture, including the shift towards greater collaboration, flexibility, and openness. So to approach the culture change and ensure its success, the very first step is to develop a vision. So you have to develop a clear vision for the culture change and communicate it to the team and stakeholders. Ensure that everyone understands the reasons for the change and the desired outcomes. Then you have to identify the cultural barriers. Identify any cultural barrier that may impede the change processes. Consider factors such as resistance to change, fear of failure, or lack of trust. Then involve the stakeholders in change process. Ensure that everyone has a voice and an opportunity to contribute to the change. Address any concerns or issues promptly. Then provide the training and support to help the team and stakeholders adapt to the new culture. Ensure that everyone has the necessary skills and resources to succeed. Then encourage the greater collaboration and teamwork. Use tools such as agile methodology, collaborative platforms, open communication channels to promote collaboration and sharing. Then celebrate success and milestones along the way. Recognize the rewards, individuals and teams for their contributions to the culture change. Continuously monitor and adjust the progress of the culture change, and use feedback mechanisms such as surveys, focus groups, one-to-one meetings to gather feedbacks and adjust the change process accordingly. Now, for example, in one of my projects, I saw that the client was not willing to change the design and the look of the front end, since that the company's presentation to the outside world, and this involved changing the company's culture. So what we did, we showed them the demo of the new look. They were quite happy since we used the old logo and maintained the old tagline. And there was only the new look, and that was accepted by everyone happily. So this way, the step-by-step approach to the culture change in the thoughtful and strategic manner that we followed brought in the successful implementation of the culture change.
Great. Thanks, Kanu, for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is with respect to the data. And again, it's very important for being a VA. So
Yes.
Can you tell us about a time when you have to work with the external data source to gather the information, and how do you evaluate the source, and what are the steps which you have taken to ensure that the data was accurate and reliable? Because accuracy and reliability are the two key components of any data. So
Right.
how you tackle this kind of situations, Kanu?
Yes. So in one of my projects, it was a research project, and we needed to gather the information from external data sources such as government database, academic journals, and industry reports. So to evaluate that and the sources, we have to ensure that data accuracy and reliability should be there. So the very first thing is identify the potential sources. You identify the potential sources of data that are relevant to your research question. Consider factors such as reputation of the source, the relevance of the data, and the data's availability. Then evaluate the quality of the source. Consider the factors such as source's reputation, the expertise of the author or publisher, the source's history of accuracy and reliability. Then access the data to determine its accuracy and reliability. Look for inconsistencies or errors in the data and compare it to other sources to validate its accuracy. Validating the source by checking for additional information that confirms or contradicts the data. Look for independent sources that support or refute the data to ensure that it is accurate and reliable. Document your process for evaluating the data and sources. Keep a record of the sources used, data collected, and the steps taken to ensure its accuracy and reliability. Along with that, you should consider the limitations of the data and sources also. Evaluate any potential biases, limitations, or gaps in the data that may impact your research. So there is also one project of a courier company that major assignments were sent through cargo ships. And we had to get the data of the details of the cargo ship, like the date and time when they will leave and when they will reach the delivery location. We had to take the help of the APIs provided by the third-party website. And that took a lot of time to include that code in our code. So, but by step, following the approach of the external data sources with the critical and evaluating the mindset, you can ensure that the data is accurate and reliable. And that data will help us to ensure that it gives us the reliable results. Thank you.
Great, Kanu. Thank you for that. Okay, so next question is on risk, which is again a very important question from my interview perspective. So can you give me an example of a project where you have to manage different risk? So how do you identify and evaluate the risk? And then again, what steps did you take to mitigate those risks? Because mitigation plan is again very important in
Yes.
a risk management. So how do you work on this, Kanu?
Right. So there was a leading project in which I had to develop a new software application for a client. The project had a tight deadline, and failure to deliver on time could have significant financial implications for both the company and the client. So to manage risk in the project, I took following steps: identify risks, identify the potential risks that could impact the project's timelines, budget, or quality. Consider factors such as complexity of the software, the availability of resources, and the stability of the technology used. Evaluate the risks that are likely to impact potentially for each risk. Use tools such as risk assessment matrices to prioritize risks based on their severity and probability. Then develop a risk mitigation plan that outlines the steps you will take to address each risk. Identify strategies to reduce the likelihood and impact of each risk, and assign responsibilities to team members. Implement the risk mitigation plan by executing the identified strategies. Monitor the progress of the plan and adjust it as necessary. Then communicate the risks to the clients and other stakeholders, and understand the potential impact of each risk and the steps being taken to mitigate them. Monitor risks throughout the project. Use tools such as risk registers to track the progress of risk mitigation strategies and identify new risks as they arise. Evaluate the effectiveness of the risk management plan at regular intervals to determine if the identified risks were successfully mitigated or if additional actions are required. For example, I had to manage the lot of Excel sheets to get the data from these sheets and put it in another sheets. This was a very tedious process for the technical team, and more easier we were thinking this project would be, the more complicated it became when the implementation began. But this was solved by conducting various meetings with the team and explaining them the details. So to approach this helps to ensure that the project is completed on time, within budget, and to the satisfaction of the client and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Kanu. Friends, this is the last question for that. But before we end this session, I want to extend a thank you to our guest, Kanu, for sharing their valuable insights on business analyst interview questions and answers. So, Kanu, we truly appreciate your time and expertise, and we know our viewers will benefit greatly from your advice, the detailed answer, the elaborated answer which you have given. And to
Welcome.
our viewers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who may find it helpful. And also feel free to leave any interview questions which you may have in the comment section. And we will take those interview questions in our next session with Kanu. So thank you again, Kanu, and
Welcome.
have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.